co-organized the Campus Changemaker Summits in Tokyo's first Sustainability Week. She's also spearheaded a series of events on menstruation and women's health called Period Rediscovered, and served on the boards of multiple women's organizations. Mahi has also conducted dozens of educational workshops as a trainer and facilitator at Ichigo Bloom, such as Climate Fresque and Planetary Boundaries Fresco workshops across schools, universities, and companies. And in her free time, it's impressive that you have free time, Mahi enjoys watching her pepper plants grow, crafting origami jewelry, and playing board games. So please welcome to the stage, Mahi. Oh, this is not for you. Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrew, for the wonderful introduction, and for Nerd Nite for hosting these amazing events and giving so many people opportunity, including myself, to share my work and share my story as well. And I hope that all of you have something to take away from this presentation today. And I'm really curious to see what your feedback and what your thoughts are on after this presentation. So obviously, I'm going to be talking about water refill and student-led sustainability initiatives. And to do that, I want to take you through a bit of a story in the form of these comics that my team and I made 4 years ago when we started this project. So maybe you've been in this situation. How many of you have been in this situation where, you know, it's a really hot day and you're thirsty, you're parched, and you realize that you've run out of water on your bottle? Show of hands. Okay, almost. I'm hoping everybody has, right? It's easy to get thirsty when it's a hot day. But if you don't know where to refill your bottle, then the easiest option available is buying a water bottle or buying some kind of packaged beverage nearby in a convenience store, right? So when you're thirsty, generally convenience wins. And that was also the case at Komaba campus, which is one of UTokyo's campuses. And there were a lot of water fountains on campus, but students didn't really know where they were. They were quite literally sometimes hidden behind a wall, and so students didn't know where to go and refill. And actually this happened to me as well when I was taking a campus tour during my first week of university when I started back in 2019. I asked the tour guide, I was like, where can I refill my bottle? And he looked at me confused and said, I don't know. And as I spent more time on campus exploring the different buildings and stuff, I started to spot the different places that these water fountains actually exist. You know, the ones where you press the button and then water comes out. I found those and I was like, okay, well, clearly people don't know where they are, but they do exist. So I was encouraged to make a little map of where these actually were. And I wrote an article for a student-led magazine at UTokyo. It's called Komaba Times. It's the only English-speaking magazine. And so the map was meant to help kind of get people to know where these water fountains were. And so zooming into that map, what we see is that I found 9. Later, there was actually another one which I was just not able to find. A few years later, I found that there's actually 10 water fountains on campus. So that's just to show how difficult they are to find. And you can see that a lot of them are kind of located in this northern eastern area of campus, and there's not much going on in the middle, that's where most of the classes happen actually. So not the best spread of where these water fountains are. And this is probably the worst looking water fountain that you can find, but you can see that they're a little bit old, they're a bit dirty, they look a bit unhygienic, and so not as many people want to use them, right? And with the pandemic, there was actually a Shiokinshi, use prohibited sign, stuck on all of them. So literally overnight, you were not able to, in theory, go and drink at these water fountains. Of course, students still use them regardless, but in theory, you weren't meant to. And then the only place that you could actually get free water was in the washroom sinks. Now that is not too appetizing and not too convincing to really drive a large number of people away from using single-use PET bottles towards using a reusable bottle, right? So something had to be done because water is a basic human need, and so of course the water fountains were great, but they were not kind of serving the students as they intended to. And so our comic was focused on this water fountain kind of hidden behind the walls of Komaba, who feels quite neglected. The students pass by with it unnoticed, and it's also a bit jealous. It's jealous of Mr. Pet Bottle. It wished it was a pet bottle. But of course, pet bottles don't have it all easy either, right? They are very durable, extremely versatile, but they're made into these bottles which are meant to be just used once and then thrown away, right? If it's lucky, it will get recycled, turn into something that might be used again. If not, it's going to be burned or end up in the landfill, or even worse, it might end up in the ocean or a lake or a river where it's polluting and causing harm, right? And so what we see is that even pet bottles, this pet bottle is also not too happy about being used in this manner, right? Being such a diverse material, it should be used for purposes that are a lot more long duration, right? And so what we decided to do was focus on pet bottles, specifically because we found that the solution was right in front of us. It was so easy to transition from using pet bottles to being able to refill your own bottle. This was quite an easy thing to do, so we thought, okay, let's try and make this happen. So that's kind of how the project started. It was actually part of a university course where we were learning about global leadership, and we were put into teams, and then we had to pick a problem in the world and come up with a research-based solution for it. And that was around from November 2020 to May 2021. And with my team, we of course came up with the idea that let's install water servers, which are bottle refill type water servers, water dispensers, so that people won't have that trouble with the hygiene as much, because you're just putting your bottle there and then it refills, and you don't have to get your mouth anywhere close to the faucet. And we made this proposal, and it was really meant to be just for this one course. We were meant to present, get graded, and then move on with our lives. But once we did this presentation, we were like, actually, this is quite realistic. We can actually try and make this happen. So that's what we kept doing. Oops, wrong way. We worked with the other student environmental circles on campus, and we made this super long proposal, 45 pages long. I don't recommend making such a long proposal. Nobody's going to read it if it's so long. But we put a lot of effort into it. We did student surveys, building surveys. We tried to make it as convincing as possible. And during the same time, these different environmental circles started working together and formed the Utokyo Sustainable Network. That's what we called it. And then we were very lucky to be invited to a board meeting in which the university's president was there. And we were given a total of 4 minutes to tell them what we had to say. And so we actually had to make a video because we weren't allowed to risk having our presentation go over time. So we made a video to share about this project and about our new student circle. And the president actually said, "This is a great idea, let's make it happen." And then nothing happened for an entire year. We did not hear back for a year. Of course, in the meantime, we weren't just wasting our time. We continued collecting data, doing student surveys. We kind of switched our approach. We contacted the student council of Komaba, and funnily enough, they were actually advocating for more vending machines on campus. So it's a bit controversial, our meeting, but they liked our idea. They were like, okay, let's negotiate with the university for both. So vending machines and water servers at the same time. So we're like, okay, we'll take it. And so they actually also took it to student negotiations. And that happened around November and December 2022. And then finally, out of the blue, we received an email saying that the university is going to move forward with installing the water servers, and they would like to work with us to decide what the locations are going to be. And in around February 2023, we managed to install the first set of 12 water servers at Komaba campus. Yay! And since then, other faculties saw that this is working well. It's good to have water places to refill your bottle on campus. And so other faculties started installing them themselves without us having to do anything more. And so since 2023, so over 2 years, we now have about 35 water servers across UTokyo campuses. So that's Komaba campus over there, which has the most, and then the other campuses as well. And this is what it looks like. If you've ever been to Muji, it's the same water server as that one. So yeah, it's spread organically, and of course, in the meantime, just installing a water refill spot doesn't guarantee that people are going to switch towards actually using it, right? So we continued trying out different things to get as many people to make that switch. And this included, of course, updating the water refill maps, making sure that all of the new students were also getting them so that they know where to actually go. We also made these posters. It's really small to read, but it says, "Mai botoru tsukatte arigato." So we really wanted to have like positive reinforcement. So we're saying thank you for using your water bottle. We also made a custom designed water bottle, which has the map of where the water servers are, so that it's kind of handy. And we also have a website where we uploaded all of our proposals so that if other students want to do this kind of project, they have all of the work that we spent doing, and they can build on that, and they can use that to make their proposals stronger. And I continued writing articles to kind of document the journey that we have been on. And we also hosted events like the Campus Changemaker Summit. And the idea here was that coming up with the idea of, okay, we need a place to refill our bottle, that's not that innovative in itself, right? There's always, I can guarantee there's at least one student in every school, every university that thinks about it if they don't already have it. And so we're like, okay, many students have this similar challenges that they're facing, and they're also going to come up with quite similar ideas. So let's bring them all together and create a space where they can learn from each other's activities. And that was kind of the purpose of this. And it's in its third year now, and just a few weeks ago, we had our third edition with Maimizu and Ichigo Bloom. Maybe you've heard of these. And we worked with them, and we did kind of a workshop-style educational event as well. And, I'm going the wrong way again. And beyond the promotional side of things, we also wanted to quantify the impact of this project. And so what we did in the first installation of the 12 locations, we also have water meters installed with them. The funny thing is, these water meters are analog, so somebody has to like literally go to all of the 12 locations and make a note of like how much water has been consumed. But we've been doing that bi-weekly readings so that we've collected enough data to kind of show how water consumption is happening across campus. But the thing is, it's only in 12 locations because apparently they cost quite a bit of money, so the university did not install them everywhere. So we only have data from 12 out of 35 locations, but from that, we can say that we've refilled about 1.1 million 500 milliliter bottles over the past 2 years and 7 months. So we actually have quantitative data to show that that is how much water has been, at minimum, drunk by students. And beyond that as well, we worked with the university's co-op. So co-op is like seikyo. It's like, basically they're responsible for everything that's sold on campus. The cafeteria, they have convenience style stores as well. And so we contacted them, and they were very cooperative, and they gave us, data about their beverage sales. And so here's a quick comparison between 2019 summer semester and 2013 summer semester. And you can see that all beverages, that there's actually a decrease of 37%. With just bottled beverages, there's a decrease of 31%. And bottled water, there's a decrease of 20%. Now, before we get too excited about this, please do take this with a grain of salt. Of course, correlation does not mean causation. We've learned that in high school. And also we had the entire pandemic going on between these two times, right? So it's a little bit complicated to figure out what the real impact of installing these water servers was. But I hope that, we can kind of see a long-term pattern and then analyze those to kind of really see if there was really a decrease in how many bottled beverages were being purchased on campus. So more to come here, I guess. Now, of course, the whole project is about reducing plastic waste, but I think the bigger impact that it's had is on creation of these student networks where further projects can happen, right? So this is a quick history of UTokyo's environmental circles. Back in 1993, so I think that's like 38 years ago, 33 years ago? 32 years ago. Thank you very much. So around 30 years ago, roughly. That's when the first environmental circle at UTokyo started, and since then there were a bunch of other environmental circles, but they weren't really working together at all. And in 2021, as I mentioned before, when the water survey project started, we started working together, and at the same time, the UTokyo Sustainable Network started as well. And then in 2023, when the water servers actually got installed, we became the official student committee working on green transformation at the University of Tokyo. For those of you who are wondering what green transformation means, it's a little bit different to the Japanese government's definition of it, which is very much entirely focused on carbon emissions. But at the University of Tokyo, it's about carbon emissions, nature positive, so making sure, thinking about biodiversity, and also circular economy. And so those are kind of the three pillars that we are working on along with the university administration. And really why I think it's so important to highlight this is because it means that it took us like 2 to 3 years for this project to be implemented, right? But for a student to try and implement a project like this again, they have a much easier pathway now, because now we are connected with people within the administration. So I hope, in theory, a little bit faster. And so I think the bigger impact here is the formation of this student network and connection and pathway with the university to do projects like this further. And so there have been a lot of other student-led projects as well, like trying to get more plant-based food on campus, having a community garden, having a sustainability weeks, and actually that's been a cross-university collaboration, having nature-positive university initiatives, or having food bank as well to reduce food loss. And for my master's thesis, I actually decided to focus entirely on water refill projects, and I looked at 7 Japanese universities where other students were actually doing this project. So of course, UTokyo was one of the case studies, but as I was doing my work, I discovered so many other students doing the exact same thing, very similar thing as we were doing. Of course, they had their own different challenges with the situation in their universities. And I tried to capture, through the interviews and document analysis that I did, all of the different connections and ways that information was being transferred between these universities. And you can see that these projects were not happening in isolation, right? Students were talking to each other. Vice presidents of universities were also talking to each other. And so this knowledge was being transferred. And so it's no longer like just this university doing this project. It's now really become something that students are working together, collaborating, and regularly sharing their challenges and kind of how they went about overcoming them with each other. So again, that's also a very important kind of outcome of these. And so to quickly summarize a little bit of my research findings, coming to common challenges that students face, I think a lot of these you can already imagine what they might be. The first one is really convincing those in power. And even before that, it's actually figuring out who is even responsible for something like water refill spots on campus. When we started the project, the university didn't even know how many water fountains there were on campus to begin with, so I had to go around and actually count them, and I miscounted them, right? So figuring out who is responsible for them, and then having the opportunity to talk to them, and then convincing them. That's a long road, right? Of course, funding. I don't think I need to say more about that. And institutional support. So when you're trying to actually create infrastructural change on campus, you need the university to help you and do most of the work, really. And of course, with water refill spots specifically, you need to make sure that they continue to be clean, because as soon as they are no longer clean, people don't want to use them, because we have the lovely, clean, shiny PET bottles right next to them. So that's kind of the competition, right? And finally, the nature of students, right? We graduate in 4 or 2 years, we go to study abroad, and so maintaining a team for a project that takes 2 or 3 years to implement, that can be quite challenging to keep it going long term. And so here are some of the drivers as well. As I mentioned, sustainability education, actually formal sustainability education, courses where students were told to go and think about a problem and come up with a solution. And like I described earlier, this actually in 3 of the universities, at Toyo University, Waseda University, and U-Tokyo, that was kind of the starting point of these projects as well. So we can see that these kind of formal sustainability education can be quite effective in moving towards action as well. Student competitions. At Osaka University, students took part in competitions twice to get funding, just to install a trial round of water refill spots so that they could convince the university that this is important to do. And they're still trying to get funding to install many more. And stakeholder roundtables, so having an opportunity where students can just present about what they want as well. And inter-university exchanges that I described earlier as well, and of course having an institutional vision. So at the University of Tokyo, because we had this shift towards green transformation and the definition included circular economy, that's why our project even became relevant. Because before, we were told to calculate the CO2 emissions benefit from our project, and comparatively, they were not as much compared to the emissions of the entire university. And so that's why actually the funding was delayed. So we need to have a good institutional vision and also an office that's actively trying to work towards it and also recognizes the value of students as well. So coming to my final slide, this was kind of the end of the comic as well. We wanted to end by saying that, of course, all of you can take a step towards tackling the issue of overconsumption by choosing sustainable alternatives. And this was what I wrote 4 years ago, but I think I want to go a little bit further now. I think it's not just about choosing sustainable alternatives, but it's also about identifying what are the barriers that we see and how can we remove those, right? So I encourage all of you to think about, whether it's your workplace or your house or your local community. If something's bothering you, you actually have a lot more power than you think to kind of create a little bit of change, do a little experiment and see if it's improving the situation or not. And it's quite fun to see the results. It might take a little while, but you will get there in the end. So I hope that I've made a case for you to maybe try and try a little experiment of your own. Thank you very much.
By the way, yeah. I think at this point we're going to do Q&A for about 20 minutes. Sorry again about the speakers. So let's get started. I think I saw a hand go up.
Thanks so much. I was just curious, did you have any pushback from local vendors or people who want to sell drinks on campus or nearby campus? Was there resistance that you had to deal with? And the other thing I thought I'd mention is you sort of started by talking about the heat. So actually not having accessible water can be dangerous. My daughter went to the University of Denver years ago, and I'm a US citizen, but I don't travel that much in the US, and I was really surprised. In Denver, they were pushing, telling all of us, you must be hydrated because it's a very dry climate, for example. And so they actually approached it as a safety issue. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So to answer your first question, we didn't get too much backlash from them because we weren't actually directly talking to any of the vendors who were selling beverages. And the co-op store was actually who was selling was very supportive of it because they saw that this is where the world is going. We do need to reduce plastic consumption. And in some ways, their hands are tied in the way that everything is packaged and sold. And so, of course, it's quite difficult for them to transition away from plastic, but they were at least willing to support us in giving us the data, and they actually did install a water server within the store as well, and that's probably the most used one as well. So they were very supportive on that front. Of course, there's a lot more that they can do. And we actually had a meeting with one of the big beverage vendors, and I'm not going to share their name just because I don't think they need any more advertising. And it was a very awkward meeting. It was only 1 hour long, and we were not allowed to talk to them before or after the meeting. And it was very polite because fundamentally we disagreed on the role of vending machines in the world, right? So it was 3 students versus I think 10 of the beverage company staff. And in the end, they were basically just blaming it on the consumer, and they're like, oh yeah, we should do more beach cleans, and we really need to educate the consumers on where they're throwing their plastic, which is, that's part of the problem, but there is a much bigger part that we could address, right? So that was kind of the only direct interaction we had with the beverage company, and I think going forward we'd probably have to do more of that as well. And to address your second point, actually, that's a very, very valid point about kind of adaptation and prevention of heat-induced illnesses, right? And we learned that a bit later, where we shouldn't be marketing this project as only from the environmental perspective of reducing plastic waste. We need to kind of add the whole well-being aspect of it, and the fact that we absolutely need access to free drinking water because of climate change, right? So adding that angle also made it a lot more convincing as well. Thank you for bringing that up.
Maybe a bit similar question to that, but maybe a bit different as well. So it's like, I was wondering, it's like, did you approach any like local businesses to support you in the cause? It's like, it's like if you need like water, just like come to our store and you can fill it up for free? Or is this like, did you try that angle a bit as well? So not just going like through the institution, but actually like engaging the local community and like local businesses as well?
We actually didn't go about that route because I think the university campus itself is kind of like a little city, right? And so we were really targeting the university campus space directly. Because when students are in there, they're not often going off campus too much to go and refill. And so we really wanted for that infrastructure to be within the university. And so we didn't really work with kind of the local other stores and shops. But I do want to share a little bit from the Osaka University. They were the ones who were taking part in the competition to raise funds, right? And because they couldn't raise enough funds, they actually reached out to companies to ask them for funding. So they went like way far into like, really trying to fundraise to implement this project. And then when they started reaching out to and speaking with the other student groups who were doing this project, they realized they were working a little bit too hard. What they needed to do was show the university, like, look at all of these other universities. The universities have funded it, you can do it too. And I don't think that it's been funded yet, but they've kind of basically changed their approach now. They're like, we shouldn't be going out for private companies because generally the university can't accept that kind of money directly for a very specific project like this anyway. So yeah, I hope that kind of answered your question.
Yeah, I think it was more about like actually like private businesses, because you have on campus as well, right? It's like there's private businesses on campus, and like they have obviously like water supply, and like they are able to supply water for people to refill, right? And I think it's just like I think you have it in Europe, in like some countries, like in Spain, it's like where you can like download an app, and it's like there's businesses like restaurants or whatever it is like they offer like free like water refills. You don't have to buy anything. You just go there and like you can refill your water, right? So I think it's like from that approach, it would be like just getting them on board. It's just like you can go there. You don't have to ask anything or like whatever. It's just like you can refill your water in that sense. Not really monetary, but just like be part of like everybody needs water, right? So it's like just be part of being a human being, basically, right?
I'm not sure if you've heard of MyMizu. I can show you their logo. They basically have an app that does exactly that. But again, like coming back to the campus, there actually aren't that many private businesses on campus. So maybe the larger campus, like Hongo campus, does have like a lot of Lawsons and Starbucks and stuff. But we were focusing on the smaller campus, Komaba campus, which has like very few. And the only kind of store there is the co-op store that is responsible for selling everything. And we did work with them, and they were very supportive and actually installed a water server. So in that sense, yes, we did actually reach out to them. Thank you.
First of all, I wanted to say congratulations
Thank you.
on what you did, because it's an amazing project and very worthwhile. You kind of answered my question in a way, because I was going to say, oh, that's better. I was going to say maybe there's a possibility of having advertising behind each, like, so each one is sponsored, because there's a case where you need it to get cleaned and maintained. But then you mentioned the fact that there aren't that many businesses and companies in that campus. So I don't know if that would be something that could be looked into just for the maintenance, because I can imagine the maintenance is quite a lot, and it might be an initiative to get people to want to get behind it if they've got their advertising. But I don't know if that goes against campus rules and regulations.
Yeah, I think maybe direct advertising would go against it, but we use it for our own advertising purposes. So we take full liberty with these water fountains. If I can show you the image again, we actually have a lot of posters and the map put up there, and we use it when we have new events coming up. Okay, there it is. Okay, you can't actually see it in this image, so whoops. But on the side of the panel, we stick up posters and stuff. And actually, sometimes we forget that we have that opportunity, and we're like, we have to rush to get the posters up. So it's a really good advertising opportunity for our own student circle. And sometimes there's a few like activist groups that use it as well. But yeah, we haven't really thought about direct advertising from companies.
First of all, lovely presentation, excellent job, everything. Actually, looking at this map made me wonder an additional question to my original one. Are you allowed to like post this map directly next to the vending machines? To be like, hey, you want a bottle of water? Well, actually, here you can get it for free. But my initial question was going back to your discussion with the beverage company. I think it's like the prerogative of most beverage companies to put the onus of recycling on consumers. And I wonder if, did that have any effect as well in kind of your discussion with Tokyo University or just any of the other universities, that their burden of recycling would decrease if you have these, if you're essentially decreasing plastic waste and things like this, like, I don't know, I think this is kind of a thing that most people don't think about, is especially here in Japan, that the burden of recycling is on them. I wonder if this is, have you tried kind of, or was this a factor? Is this kind of something that people are thinking about at all or not? So.
Yeah, those are really good points, and I'm so glad that you brought them up. So the first one, actually we wanted to do, it was a bit of vandalism. We wanted to go and stick up these maps, but being in Japan, we thought it's better to get permission, because we did not want to get in trouble, especially because we were trying to build this network and we wanted to be on really good terms with the university. And so we asked permission if we could vandalize the vending machines. And of course they said no. But luckily, the co-ops were actually installed, put up the poster near the PET bottle area of the store. So we didn't put it on the vending machines, but we did put it in the store where the PET bottles were, which was good. But yeah, I really did wish it was just on the vending machines. And the other thing is, interestingly, the vending machines are also operated by the co-op store, but they are bought from whatever the vending machine company is, right? So the co-op store actually doesn't get that much profit. They get a tiny share of the profit, and most of the money goes to these vending machines. So we also wanted to try and reduce the number of vending machines on campus, which I think will take another decade to happen. But we did kind of start to touch at that conversation as well. And I was going to say something about that, but now I've forgotten what I was going to say. Yeah, it was basically quite difficult to actually get the number of, so actually the co-op store was happy to reduce number of vending machines, but as I said, the student council was trying to get more installed. So in the end, more did get installed, because that's what the students want, right? Yeah, so as the environmental student committee, it's difficult for us to represent the student voice of the entire university, because obviously our interests are very defined within sustainability as well. So there's a bit of conflict there. And going back to what you were saying about recycling, initially in our proposal, we didn't think of that, because we didn't know that recycling also was such a cost to universities. So in universities, the waste disposal happens through, I think, private companies where they take all of the stuff away. And so they have to pay for all the waste that happens on campus. So it is a massive advantage if there's fewer PET bottles that have to be recycled. It does save them money. And that was the logic that the vice president used while getting the budget approved. So, it's like these kind of little details is quite important for other students to know, so that they could use that information when they're making their pitch as well.
Thank you for story. I'm quite interested in the story when you're talking about to remove the vending machine. For people living in Japan, maybe you know that the vending machine just not only for selling the drinks for the emergency case in disaster happening, it's also have for that case. So come back to your things, instead of remove the vending machine, is there any way you can think to reduce your water server can have for the disaster case also? Maybe that can be a good case to, maybe they cannot remove the vending machine because they had different reason, which is not just only for selling, because as you say, maybe not only the money can be in there.
Yeah, so the case that we were trying to make was not necessarily remove all the vending machines, but it was more about reducing the number. So I think there was about 10 on Komaba campus, and we're like, what if we halved those, right? Because it's actually not that far to walk to the closest convenience store. They're always going to sell PET bottles in convenience stores. It's a long way before those go away. So it's not like students are going to have to struggle so much to get a drink if they really needed to, especially if we're also providing them water by having more refill spots. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I think that could be another case as well, as like with emergencies as well, these water servers, hopefully if they're working. The other challenge though with these water servers is that because it is actually a rented piece, all of them have to be installed inside a building, because the University of Tokyo's campus is open to the general public. People are there walking their dogs, walking their kids as well. So we don't want them to get dirty, as I said. So they're inside buildings, and buildings shut down at 8 p.m. So you can't actually access these locations if you're on campus after 8 p.m. or on national holiday. And so that becomes a problem again. That's where you need the vending machines so that people still have access to water. So it's kind of like this balancing act that we have. But yeah, I still do think that we don't necessarily need so many vending machines. It can still be at least reduced.
Sort of a couple of weird questions. What percentage of
Sorry,
students carry water bottles?
you need to use the microphone.
What percentage of Todai students carry a water bottle?
I don't actually have the data on that, and
Well, your intuition. Intuition is fine. When I was at Todai, it was 0. It was
really,
1979.
really, did they have vending machines back then? I really don't know when vending machines were invented.
I have a vending machine story for you, but
Okay.
but what I was going to do, your machines also refill PET bottles.
Yes, so a lot of students actually refill their PET bottles instead of just carrying their own reusable bottles. So that's still reducing plastic, but yeah, people do use it in many different ways.
Sorry, I'm going to interject and then we'll go to you next. I have a question I actually really want to ask, and I don't know if you have an answer. First of all, thank you so much for doing this work. I would like to see more student activism in this mode at my own campus. And I want to ask about water servers. So I do a lot of like cycle trips and that kind of thing, and I often refill my water bottle from water fountains in parks. If you look around Japan, for a very long time, there have been very simple, low maintenance spigot style water taps available in a lot of places outdoors. When you started discussing this with the university, or when you started proposing this, was there a specific reason that you went towards these very high maintenance sort of devices that you have to install indoors and that kind of thing?
Yeah, that was a massive discussion. And myself, I was for the whole tap water side of the argument. So the question was between, should we have tap water or filtered water? And if you need filtered water, then you need these kind of machines, right? And so the issue was we are competing with PET bottles again, right? And so we need to offer something that's as attractive, if not more attractive, for the large group of people to transition, right? So like people who are already happy to drink tap water, they will be more than happy to drink tap water from a little bit of a fancier kind of location. But for those who, you know, have really strong opinions against tap water, or like for the large majority of public, we wanted to have these as well. And the other issue with that was University of Tokyo is very old, and so the piping is also quite old, and there is risk of water being contaminated when it comes up the pipe, right? So it's definitely going to be clean when it starts from the source, but when it actually comes to, so like I've had multiple times when I've drank the water, I'm like, this does not tastes too good. And so we actually reached out to one of the researchers in our university who was testing tap water, and she had done a few tests on the water from our pipes, and she's like, yeah, it's not too clean. So
The conclusion, of course, is that, I mean, it's implicit that the filters actually do clean it, but that's debatable, right? That's the issue, right? But they might help with, they certainly add microplastics, so you're getting that same as you do with PET bottles, but yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm curious how that came about.
And actually, another university, Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology, they were one of the first universities who installed this, and it was spearheaded by a professor who does research on microplastic pollution. And he was then testing the water servers that they have for PFAS pollution as well, because that's the growing concern, right? And so he found that these machines, they have the exact same machine. I'm not trying to advertise this machine in any shape or form. Please do not take that like that. But he found that they were actually doing the job of filtering them. So with growing in water pollutants, I think there's kind of this, just having the filter, at least writing the word filter, I think gets more people a bit more on the side of drinking. But for those who are already okay with tap water, are happy with all. So like our target audience is kind of like everybody. So
there's good points on both sides.
Yeah.
And I think about which one is better all the time. Sorry, we're going to do one more question. I think it was here, and then we'll go to break.
Congratulations on this work. My question is two parts. One is more than the competition with the co-op and the beverage companies. My interest would be towards saying, how did you motivate students to probably work with you on this? You might be having a core interest on this idea, but students come in 2 years, they complete course, move out. 4 years, they move out. They may not have the same urgency to probably work on something like this. How do you motivate students? Because you need a large student cooperation to probably go and meet the university representatives and then probably convince them. How do you do it? That's the first question. Second one is that, have you tried meeting the alumni of your campus so probably they could donate some of these dispensers to your campus as well? Is that a possibility?
So for the first question about how do you go about like creating that kind of team, you actually don't need that many people to go about doing something like this. You just need a few people who are there to support you in your journey to make this happen. So in our project, I would say that on average there was 10 people at a time, but only like 2 or 3 actually involved people going throughout, right? So you really don't need a big team. And for me, I met the group of students I've been working with through that course that I met in, and also by joining environmental circles. So they were kind of, the people were already there, they're volunteering their time already, and they found a project that was likely to be implemented. It seemed like something that could happen, and so I think that's what also got people excited, is that this could actually happen. Whereas we tried some other projects, like we tried to get receipts banned on campus. See, that's something that just did not work, right? Like, it did not go too far. So so I think it's kind of like you just need a few people. You really don't need 20, 30 people. You just need a few people to make something like this happen. But you need those people to stick with you. And if somebody leaves, you want someone else to join as well. And the second question, we actually didn't think too much about contacting alumni because I really didn't know how to contact them in the first place. But yeah, maybe in the future that could be another possibility for getting donations. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Let's have one more round of applause.
Thank you.
Really good discussion. And we're going to take a 20-minute break. We're going to come back at about 9:15. So please head to the bar, buy some drinks, and we'll see you at 9:15. Thank you.
Oh, little boy, little girl, little person, little jumpsuit wearing sequins. Well, it's time to stop your midnight driving and put your dancing shoes away. A little woman, little man, little grown up, little platform wearing disco fan. It's time to stop your late night shaking. It's the end of a long dancing day. This is a disco. This is a disco lullaby. Lay down your funky head midnight driving, and put your dancing shoes away. A little woman, little man, little grown up, little platform wearing disco fan. It's time to stop your late night shaking. It's the end of a long dancing day. This is a disco. This is a disco lullaby. Lay down your funky head. It's time to go to sleep now. Go get tucked into bed. Your daddy and your mommy will boogie shake their bummies at the disco scene. But first they'll
Is that the wrong franchise?
Yes, we could get sued for that.
Is that trademarked?
I think so.
Get ready to relax. Get ready to recline. Oh, that's right. You need to pitch your book. We'll also do that. Oh, get ready to research. And that did it. That did it. Thank you for that. All right, everybody properly watered and fed and everything? Let's get started again. We have a few community announcements to make before our next speaker. We're going to start with a couple of humanities announcements. The first is from the human directly in front of me. Rod?
Okay. So, how many of you all like to read books? Yay, a bunch of you. Do you all read like real paper books, or do everybody read Kindle? I have. How many of you are familiar with John le Carre's spy novels? The Spy Who Came In from the Cold, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. I have a new novel of that was written by Nick Harkaway, who is not John le Carre, but is John le Carre's son. So I finished this. Anybody who wants it may have it. And this occurs to me that maybe we should just turn Nerd Nite also into a book exchange. So if other people bring a book, you want to. My wife declared our house to be a zero-sum zone on books a while back. If I bring one in, I'm supposed to take another one out. So this one's going out to whoever wants it.
You can come find him at the end of the night after our next speaker. Next announcement is about Tokyo Humanities, the event. This happens irregularly right here in this same space. In fact, they were very helpful in introducing us to this space. They don't have another event currently scheduled, but you can Google for Tokyo Humanities, or you can look at the QR code here and look up their website, get on their mailing lists and their Facebook page. Next up, there is a Space Cafe. Yes, there is a Space Cafe scheduled, and it is happening next week on November 20th at 8 p.m. at Good Heavens in Shimokitazawa. Also highly recommended. If you're on our meetup group, you'll also be getting notifications about these. All right, next slide. Or, thank you. Oh, that's right, it's you. Sorry.
So, okay, so yeah, so Nerd Nite is. Why is it not going to the next friggin' slide? Excuse me. It's one of those nights. Oh, because probably. Oh, because you've decided to do that, have you? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Do 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 do. Yeah. I'm just. It's one of those nights. Okay. Which is like every night is one of those nights. So, as the photos from shows cycle behind me, so Nerd Nite is produced. Nerd Nite Tokyo is produced by Yokohama Theater Group. We kind of use it as a fundraiser, and yeah. So we collectively create shows either based on existing material, like that was a shot from an adaptation of Antigone that we did, or we take like a word or an idea or a poem and we turn it into a show. Usually, we didn't do it last year, but we're going back to that because last year was a nightmare. Yeah, so I'm currently fundraising for two projects. One is an audio project about the year, which I believe is 1966, when the Beatles came to Japan. There will be no Beatles music in the audio project because but we will have lots of original music. We're kind of doing it like it's going to be. So it's based on this woman's memoirs that she wrote about being a teenager at that time, and it's going to be structured as like a concept album. So it's going to be something. It's going to be released as a podcast, and then also available sort of as one long track for download. So we're fundraising for that, and we're also fundraising for our spring showcase, which is what happens is we get together, and we're adapting a poem this time. We create material based on that, and then the spring showcase, we sort of show as much of the material as we've developed to an audience. We get feedback, and then I go with another group, just because people aren't here for that long, for the summer, and we make the final show based on the feedback and the material we generated in the spring. That QR code, by the way, will take you to the sponsorship page where you can, if you want to, donate to help out either of those two projects if you feel they're worthwhile. And yeah, we also, of course, we always need volunteers, and it's not that bad. Katie volunteered for the last show, and it was she's being very kind. It was rough. Yeah, so we also need volunteers. So come and talk to me if that kind of thing interests you. And yeah, that's it. So I'm going to pass this back to you.
Fantastic. And I think that's our last community announcement. All right, let's introduce our second and final speaker of the night. Here it is. Matt is a Swede. He is a Swede who lives in Japan and likes doing his own thing while also trying to help people when he can. He enjoys playing piano, making music, writing all sorts of things, doing comedy, and making people laugh. And I'll just add that there is actually a connection between our first and second speaker here. I don't think we were really aware of that until now. But both of them have helped clean out our great city of the tremendous amounts of litter that piles up in places. And I think you're going to talk a little bit about this as well. So give it up for Matt.
Yeah. Oh, it works. Test. Okay. So I wanted to talk about comedy pro wrestling, but first, let me just say that the previous presentation was amazing. There's no way of me topping that. My presentation will be like that one kid who puts crayons in his nose and says, "Mom, I don't feel so good." So that's basically what my presentation will be like. I'm putting myself kind of low. I was considering doing the presentation in these, but I was afraid I'd get arrested, so I kind of gave up on that. All right, let's get into it. Well, this is the first slide, and I have no idea how to use this.
Down is forward, up is back.
Down is forward.
The top button is a laser pointer.
The top button is a laser pointer. Okay. Oh, yep. It burns. Okay, anyways. Yeah, so this picture we took in Sendai when we were out, we were doing like a tour-ish. So we went to Sendai and we just took this kind of funny picture. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Forward. Okay. Down. Okay. It all started with a thing I like to call the Big Bang. Yeah, where everything was created from this combined stardust of my parents. I think that's what they told me, anyways. Anyways, I'll get on with it. Okay. So I was doing free hugs in Shibuya. Yeah, nobody is expecting this at all. So while I was doing free hugs, I met a lot of different types of people. There was this one guy who was called Tawashi Oji-san, the guy on the left. And he introduced me to various events. He introduced me to like modeling events. He introduced me to, well, weird shows. He took me to pretty strange places. But one of the places that he took me to was a trash collecting place in Shibuya, or like it's like a volunteer group. It's called 888, Hachiko 888. So what the group does is they collect a bunch of trash around Shibuya once, like every 8th. So the 8th this month, the 18th, the 28th. So they keep like collecting trash there, and I joined them quite a few times. And that's where I met this guy, who is a pro wrestler. Well, all these guys are pro wrestlers, but are comedy pro wrestlers, so to say. Now, I guess I should talk a little bit about what pro wrestling is, as most of you might not be aware. I mean, some people might know the name John Cena, raise of hands. Yeah, awesome. But pro wrestling is, it's all kind of like an act. So it looks like people are fighting and really hurting each other. And sometimes it does really hurt. There are some things that really, really hurt. But it's generally not too dangerous. Although you do need to prepare and train and everything so that it does not become dangerous. Some people do get severely wounded while doing it. But it's like, I guess most people are aware of like normal wrestling, like doing different types of moves. But it's all like, what's the word? Coordinating? Choreography. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing. Now, speaking of John Cena, the first time when I actually joined, they asked me like, what kind of pro wrestler do you want to be? Like, what kind of because this Sugamo Pro Wrestling does like they copy the real pro wrestlers. So, for example, John Cena would be John Yoshina, which in Japanese means Yoshina is something that you say to kids like, stop it, like stop that, put it down. So that was kind of like a joke that we had ongoing while I was doing this character. Now, John Cena is a really muscular and big guy, and well, I have a big suit to make up for it, but a little bit too big, as I was told a few times too many, perhaps. Yeah, so this was my one of my first matches as John Yoshina, where I then picked up this guy. It was actually I was so nervous. I was like, I need to get this right because there are tons of people watching, and then like put him down gently, and then people laugh because it's too gentle. Yeah, it's like cute. Then I did a different character. So I was told by the leader and various other pro wrestlers in the group of Sugamo Pro Wrestling that they want me to do like a cool character. They want me to do something that suits me, or where I look kind of like the real pro wrestler. And so I tried to do this, which is the real pro wrestler's name is Zack Sabre Jr. And he's pretty famous in Japan. He basically does how should I call it? He does moves kind of like a snake, wraps around people and does those kind of moves, generally speaking, which is, well, kind of what I was doing. Now, as you can see, I'm wearing briefs. Now the real Zack Sabre Jr. isn't wearing briefs because he's not a weirdo. And well, this is another guy who was part of the Sugamo Pro Wrestling, who was called the Great Kokang. There's a real pro wrestler named the Great Okang, and they look they look the same. Some people actually mistake him for the real one and ask for autographs, which is really cool. Only one guy mistaked me for the real one, and I was like, it finally happened. Then I was trying to, I personally wanted to do a more erotic character, a more dirty character, but I was told by one of the guys, or several of the guys, that, nah, you look cool, so you should do a cool character and then get a lot of girls to watch you doing pro wrestling. But I was like, what if I focus on guys? But I wanted to make them happy, I wanted to try it. So this character, the idea behind this character was that he is putting the pervert inside of him and locking him away. But sometimes it comes out. That was the idea. So I was like, okay, fine by me. But I ended up not doing anything perverse. But I did manage to do some cool things. Now, I actually don't know the names of the moves in English for most part. I actually just learned them in Japanese because I didn't do any pro wrestling before I came to Japan. I didn't know anything about pro wrestling before I came to Japan. And this is where it led to, what I wanted to do from the start. So, Hentai Kamen is, some people may know of the movie. And normally we can't do that at Sugamo Pro Wrestling, but there's one time per year, and it's the New Year's Eve, where we have like a match where you can do any kind of character. So some people might do Luffy from One Piece, and I was like, what kind of character do I want to do? Hentai Kamen. So that was pretty much me going in briefs, wearing briefs on my head, and then wearing the other guy's briefs on my head. And, well, we did some other stuff too. It's pretty fun. Okay. And then this was actually in Sendai. Danshoku de Ino. There's a real pro wrestler. It's a homosexual pro wrestler named Danshoku Dino. And it basically means, well, man color, but it's kind of translated to gay in Japanese. So, and he has a lot of different moves. And for me, it's like, the name is it really okay for me to do that? So in the matches, I first act like, can I? Nah, I shouldn't. Can I? And then eventually, yes! Speaking of which, Andrew? Oh, I'll hold you up to that. Okay. Well, yeah, so this was where we were in Sendai, where I took the earlier picture, the first slide as well. So, what else is there to say? Oh, yes. Q&A will soon start, but I'll try to make it a little bit longer. So, this is a good friend of mine, which also is a member of the Sugamo Pro Wrestling. Now, there's actually a funny story about this. So, we were 4 guys, and this is like part of the comedy. Everyone thinks of things that are funny and just does funny things. Just like right now, I didn't prepare anything for this. I'm just going with the flow. So some things I say will not be funny or interesting at all. Some might be hilarious, but that's the kind of thing we did here. So we were 4 guys here, and I put like pretzels in this guy's mouth, and he's like, And then we asked the other guy to take videos of it. So first he just took pictures to make fun of him, and then he took a video of himself. So we had to repeat this over and over again, and he got kind of pissed off. It was hilarious to us at the time. Okay, now I don't want to be like a salesman or anything like that, and I know that those people are quite annoying sometimes. But I do have an upcoming event, the 11th of December at Shinjuku Face, where I'll still be doing the character Danshoku de Ino, the gay character. So then I can do moves onto any of you, perhaps. At least the men in the audience. Oh.
Right. Are we ready for victims or?
Oh yeah, I can show you a move as well.
Go on, let's go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think this is the last slide. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Victims.
Victims. Yes.
Am I going to have to do this first? All right.
All right. I just want to say I'm under medical orders not to exercise this week. Let's go easy.
I'm gonna be very nice to him. I'm always nice to guys. So. It's up to you. It's up to you. I mean, you can go. You can. Oh yeah. That's the vibe. That's the vibe. Yeah. Awesome. So first take this and then like this. Yeah. So this is called a lockup, and from this generally, this is the move. So it's like you take someone's hand and it's like it hurts the hand, but my character takes it further and. So that's one of the moves, which is actually one of the only moves that are. It's pretty hard to show most of the moves here because they're kind of dangerous. But yeah, that's one of the moves I wanted to show, and I guess for now Q&A. I guess.
I have like 4 All right. Questions? We have questions. Anything? Oh, sorry.
This is thanks. This is interesting. I didn't know anything at all about this. How big is this? How many people do you get coming to an event? How many events are there per year? How many wrestlers are there in the community? I don't have like any idea of sort of the scale of this at all.
So pro wrestling itself is very big in Japan. So it's only second to America, I think. So it's very, very popular in most pro wrestling shows. For the group that I'm part of, generally we have it happens at Sugamo Pro Wrestling, like at the Todokan, and there are only 80 people that can fit in there. So those are the general events. They happen about 8 times per year. And then we have bigger events at like Takashima Daira or Shinjuku Face. In Takashima Daira, it's like 350 people, and at Shinjuku Face, it's like 500 or 550 people. So, and generally, it's sold out, pretty much sold out. So we do get quite a few people coming to the events.
Cool.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
That helps.
Okay.
So after all of that, how do we actually find your events? Like, is there a homepage, Instagram?
Oh yes. So actually, I upload pictures on my Instagram personally, where the information of the events, where to go, when it is, and everything is. And I have some tickets with me tonight as well, but I just in case. I sincerely, just in case.
It's is linked from our homepage as well.
Yeah.
So you can find it there.
Thank you so much. I can always count on you, Andrew.
All right, I have a question. So you said that there's one event a year where you can basically do whatever you want.
Pretty much.
So the event that I went to back in the summer was like an all ages event. It was sort of like at a community center, right? So
all ages event.
Yeah, like what's the difference? Like how do you decide what you're gonna do, and how do you come up with what you're gonna do and that kind of thing?
So, well, generally, I'm not really the one who. Well, I decide my own character, like when these events come, but whether they come or when they come, it's not really up to me. So the leader of the group tends to like talk to all sorts of, the owners of all these places, and then try to time things. If they can time things for such an event, then it happens. If they can't, it doesn't. But generally, it's like once or twice per year where you can do these kind of characters. So sometimes, well, generally speaking, we do like real pro wrestlers copying. We do that kind of thing. So we do their moves but with a twist to it. And in these other events, there can be like a game event. So there was this game event as well. So people were doing like Street Fighters characters from like arcade games, like really old arcade games. And yeah, people actually did that. While there was also one guy who did Blackbeard from One Piece, and his special move was Black Hole. Guess where that black hole was? I leave it up to your imagination. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can answer that, but like for me, it's like the wrestling I know is like Mexican wrestling, American wrestling, and
Yeah.
like Japanese wrestling.
Yeah.
It's like for you, it's like what are the differences? Where would you say it's like Japanese wrestling is different to, it's like Mexican or American wrestling?
I'd say that American wrestling and Japanese wrestling are very, very close. The thing is, I'm not super aware of Mexican wrestling. I've only seen a couple of movies, so my knowledge is very limited. But it looks quite a lot, I don't know, tougher. I mean, the moves are pretty hard to do, whichever wrestling you do, but it seems like it hurts a little bit more in Mexican wrestling, from what I've watched.
Sorry. Okay. It was same question. Oh, that's the same question. Okay, I have a question because I don't know much about pro wrestling as well. But how do you practice? What kind of training do you do?
Generally we practice on how to take hits, for example, and well, how to do the moves. So we have like practice, at least in my group, we have practice twice per week, generally speaking, where generally we start by rolling forward and rolling backwards and falling backwards, making sounds. So like the way you hit, you don't just do this, you do this, and you make sounds at the same time. So if you hear this and you just see this, it's very different. It's gonna sound like it's more impactful. But generally, when you're doing a slap or a hit like that, it's generally genuine. Like you do it with all your force, pretty much. So it gets red here, like really red, and it hurts quite a bit. But it's part of the show as well. Yeah.
How many hours do you train per week?
So we train, so each time it's like 2 hours. So the first part is like these kind of, that we do every time, like preparing for how to get hit and how to move and how to not get hurt, like injury prevention, generally speaking, is like 1 hour. And then the next hour is like new moves, practicing the new moves and trying to make them look cooler or funnier and thinking of ideas to, well, improve it. Yes?
Do you have professional teaching?
We have.
I don't know if I missed it, but like, so you say the moves are choreographed with your partner.
Yeah.
So does pro wrestling have like, is it a competition? Is there a winner, or like, is it just a show?
It's generally, in 98% of the cases, it's just a show. I mean, there are like there are some instances where it can be like the crowd deciding the winner, for example, and they can continue doing things and go off script. And we do actually go off script quite a lot, but it's because the people actually forget what their moves are. Not me. I remember everything.
Do you have professionals teaching you, or is it all amateur?
Amateur. Yeah, it's comedy pro wrestling. It's amateur pro wrestling, so to say. There are some people who are very good at it. So some people actually became professional afterwards and actually moved on to real pro wrestling. Some stayed because they wanted to do the comedy aspect of it a little bit more.
When did it start?
Me or the
This is comedy pro wrestling.
when I started or when it
Start.
When it started. I don't know. That I have no idea when comedy pro wrestling started. Sorry.
So we have like 3 questions, so we're going to start back here, and then I see you. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, is this on? Yes? Okay. This is such an absurd job. I think that's fair to say. Like, you can take it, you're a comedian. This is insane, it's absurd. And I really want to know sort of what about this entices you? Like, I guess more specifically, maybe this is bad practice to ask, but we're all friends here. How much are you getting paid, first of all? And you mentioned that, you know, they wanted you to play a cool character. Has this made you popular with any, like, ladies? Like, actually? I'm...
Or men, right?
I gotta admit that they didn't expect the popularity I'd gain with the men. They thought wrong from the start. Okay, there were a lot of questions. So regarding money, I can't say the exact things, but I can say we make money pretty much based on the amount of tickets we sell. So, and right now it's actually going pretty well. So, I mean, for the amount of work put into one match, I guess it pays a little bit better than a part-time job. Yeah, if you think about it money-wise, or like time-wise, I guess, the hourly wage-wise. Oh, and the other question was?
What attracts you about it?
Oh, what attracts me? So I enjoy making people laugh, which I guess it's pretty obvious, although I'm failing miserably quite a lot. Okay. Wow, I succeeded. Nice. Self-deprecating jokes always make it. Okay. That's one thing, I guess. Or, yeah, I thought it was a fun thing to do where I could express my own ideas. You know, when we're making a match, everyone comes up with some ideas. Some things we add, some things we take away, but generally we make the matches together. So it's very nice to like make my own thing and then see, oh, a lot of people found this very interesting. A lot of people laughed. So that's something that I thought was pretty funny. And I thought it was pretty absurd to begin with, and I like doing absurd things as well.
Okay, so from growing up around a few brothers who loved pro wrestling, I know there are a few female pro wrestlers in America, at least. In your community here in Tokyo, are there any female participants, or is it predominantly male dominated?
Well, I would say it's male dominated, but there are a lot of female pro wrestlers. Right now in the group I'm in, I think it's about 40% female pro wrestlers. Then generally the place where we go and practice, it's actually a female pro wrestler place. So, and it's pretty popular. So female pro wrestling is actually very popular here in Japan. Well, it also has to do with the idol culture and stuff, so it gets kind of intermingled in a sense. So even female pro wrestlers tend to do the same things that idols do afterwards, like taking pictures with fans, and it costs extra money, for example. So it's actually very popular here in Japan. Oh, yeah, looking for more participants.
I was wondering what pro in pro wrestling stands for, because I thought it was professional, but
Yeah.
then you said it's amateur, right?
Oh, no. It is professional, but okay, so it's called like pro wrestling and comedy pro wrestling because if you say just wrestling, it gets confused with the actual art of like the MMA part of like, or the wrestling part of MMA. Yeah. So that's why it's called pro wrestling instead, which is pretty weird. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Amateur pro wrestling.
I see one question.
So like a big thing with like especially the American pro wrestling leagues is they play up these characters and they how to say they ask these people to maintain kayfabe, like play parts and maintain drama even outside of the ring. So they have their series right. So like, is this kind of like dramification part of your thing here, or is that like more reserved for like the the pro people?
It is. It is more preserved for the pro people, but we do have events. So we had an event at Ueno, I think, where basically me and this other guy were facing each other, and he was like the hero, I was the bad guy. And so we fought, and before the match as well, we were like, dude, like, I'm gonna kill you, pretty much. Yeah, I know I'm terrifying, right, when I say that. Terror. Okay. And then after the match as well, we were like looking at each other like gonna fight again. So we do maintain something like that, but it's not the same. It's not at all the same. And I don't know if it's the same in Japan, generally speaking, either. Even some of the bigger pro wrestlers here in Japan, I'm not sure. But I guess they maintain some, but not at the same level as America.
I'm just curious, actually. Do you know Fuwa-chan? Maybe some people know she quite famous character, usually come on TV. So she disappeared for several years because of incident. But she come back to be pro wrestler and yeah, Fuwa-chan. Maybe you can search famous YouTuber. And there's a quite a story why she tried to, because after incident in Japan, it's difficult for her to come back to the TV show. But they talk about why she choose to be pro wrestler to come back to the show. So just questions on me. Is that something like pro wrestler might be similar to your question? It's easy to bring you to TV show or something, or you have ever to think to maybe extend a little bit one step in more that kind of industry?
Well, as for myself, for me personally, I don't really care too much about fame. If I get famous, it's, I guess, cool. But even if I don't, it doesn't really, it's not the thing that matters to me. So I like to do just what I enjoy doing and just kind of live honestly to myself. Then if something like that happens, then it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't. But some people do join it there are some theater people in the pro wrestling group that want to increase their fame there, so they do the pro wrestling as well, and then they try to do other things as well and try to get more people to come watch them, and then they actually get that fame. So they're doing it for the fame and for the success. But, well, you could say that, or because they love it. But some people, I think, are doing it more for the money. Generally, in the group that I'm in, I think the people that are there are doing it because they like doing it. At least that's the atmosphere that I feel when I'm there.
Cool. If there aren't any other questions, that seems like a good place to wrap up.
Yep.
So let's give another round of applause and thank Matt for coming up.
Later as well.
I feel like I need some hand sanitizer or something. All right, thank you so much. All right, let's do a couple of things to wrap up for the evening. All right. All right. I'm just going to remind you one more time. Oh yes, don't forget about the tickets. You can buy them here or look us up as Instagram later. Our next Nerd Night will be on Friday, December 12th, right here. We have a great lineup, which we will be announcing at 9 a.m. tomorrow on our website. The post is already scheduled, I think. Anyway. All right, next slide. If you've been to Nerd Night sometime in the last, well, year or so, you might have seen me use a similar slide to this before. You might know what this is all about. So in the US, as you might know, the current presidential administration has a long list of words or phrases or concepts that could get your grant proposal flagged if you're trying to apply for a research grant in the US, if you're trying to apply for a grant to do some kind of work in the US. You can't read the words in here, but it's everything that you would expect to see in a list like this. Everything from climate change to LGBT issues or trans issues. When I went and double checked this the other day, they have now added phrases like clean water. I'm not joking. Clean water can get your proposal. Yes, it's appropriate for tonight, yes. So I bring this up, as always, to mention essentially, if you are an expert in one of these topics that is important to our understanding of the world and is currently being suppressed, or a point of view that's being suppressed in the US, please come talk to us. We would love to have you as a speaker. And finally, thank yous. Let me get out my thank you list. As always, it takes a lot of people to put together this show every month. Our first thank you this month is very special. It goes to Amanda, our original Nerd Nite Tokyo founder. She's not here tonight, but she is visiting Japan. She hasn't lived in Japan for a few years, and from what I hear, she's watching the live stream from the airport. Second thank you goes to Andrew. Thank you, as always, for putting together all of the theatrical aspects of the show. And as well to Melvin for hauling a lot of the equipment as well. Thank you to Daria, who already had to leave for the evening. Thank you to Gray. Thank you to Selena. Thank you to Coco. Thank you to Kay. Thank you to Bram. Thank you to our hosts here at Yozan Park for letting us do this every month. Thank you to our speakers for putting together their slides and taking the time to be here tonight. And finally, thank you to all of you for coming here tonight. And we're actually finishing up right on time for once. Please be aware that we need to clear out and be completely out of this space in about 15 minutes from now. So please hang around, have some conversations, ask any more questions you didn't get a chance to have, but please start making your way through the door. And I really hope to see all of you next month.